I think that there are two reasons why Donald Trump wants to do this. All right, let's get to Charlie Kirk. Yeah, now let's hear what he had to say in it about the tariffs. Yeah.
President using tariffs in the way he has to encourage manufacturing to come back to this country has been long overdue. We used to fund the entire federal government with tariffs. We used to fund all of our goods and services that we had through tariffs. In fact, I love the president's idea of the External Revenue Service.
I love this concept because they're talking about a time when global trade was like negligible. You know what I mean? Like anything pre complete global trade. Okay. Yeah, dude. It was, yeah, when things were being shipped without the invention of planes. Okay. No, they're not living in the 1950s. No, he's talking about the 1850s, chatter. It's even worse. No, he's talking about the age of like piracy and not digital piracy. I'm talking ARG type pirates. Okay. Like they designed this intricate, complex web of global trade that they rely on. And now they're like, oh, but remember when we used to make people walk the plank, matey. Arg, things were much better back then, you see. Probably earlier than 1850s, there was giga trade by then. No, there was giga trade in the 1850s. It's just that kind of global trade is negligible in comparison to how it works right now. That's my point. Dude, there were no planes back then, okay? Well, obviously, a lot of trade is still done by ships. Even ship technology wasn't as advanced, okay? Cargo freight technology wasn't as advanced. It's not like there is no comparison you can make to trade in the early 19th century with modern day global networks, like the logistical, the logistics that have improved, the supply chains that exist. It's just not, that's insane. In that case, yeah, 1850s tariffs would be substantially different than modern tariffs. Yeah, a modern container ship can carry 100 1850s cargo ships.
For the Internal Revenue Service, let's start actually taxing the rest of the world. And we're able to do this as the world superpower, as the incumbent economic power, because everyone wants to do business here. It's one thing if you're Portugal. It's one thing if you're Spain. It's another thing we're the United States of America because people want to come here. This will result in trillions of dollars of more investment and capital coming into our country.
So Charlie wants to get rid of the income tax. So they just pay the federal budget down with tariffs. I know why. It's because Charlie's making so much money. And you know what? I agree.
I like that they're laughing about it, but that's like low-key their design, it seems. It's twofold. On the one hand, you get to punish industry leaders that don't comply with whatever demands you have, whether it be something as stupid as like DEI initiatives or something more nefarious like, outing all of your employees like immediate undocumented family members or something, right? That is, you can put a tremendous amount of pressure on industry leaders by basically saying like, oh, you don't want to comply with the administration's demands? Well, guess what? You're going to get hit with a tariff. Or rather, you can get an exemption from tariffs if you play ball, right? But the other side of the story is that it also, in my opinion, creates an opportunity for the Republican Party to finalize their agenda, which is to eliminate the last progressive taxation structure that exists in this country, even though the outcomes of said progressive taxation structure, given the million different loopholes that exist, is already not so progressive, but it's still at the very least progressive, okay, in theory. They want to eliminate that in its entirety and turn around and implement this regressive tax, a federal sales tax, basically. Oh, the Chamber of Commerce is not happy? Well, I'm shocked. Statement from the U.S. Chamber. Tariffs are not the answer. Washington, D.C., U.S. Chamber of Commerce, Senior Vice President and Head of International, John Murphy, released the following statement regarding President Trump's announcement that the administration will implement 25% tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and 10% tariffs on China. Yeah, not happy is right. I don't understand why he does this. Can you explain it to me? I'm dumb, lol. I think that there are two reasons why Donald Trump wants to do this. One, because Donald Trump wants to utilize the tariffs as a mechanism of pressure for sectors and industry leaders to basically kiss the ring. You kiss the ring, you don't get hit with tariffs. Because remember, for those of you who still don't understand this, because I've talked about it a million times over, tariffs don't actually work in the way that Trump claims it does, right? Tariffs don't actually work in the way that, maybe to your surprise, the Republican Party has claimed it works. You're not actually putting a tariff on the country, right? You're not putting a tariff on like China, and China is paying for the price of said tariff. The tariff is an entry fee, okay? So it's not actually the Chinese companies that are paying for the tariff. It's actually the American companies that are tasked with importing the goods that are paying the tariff at the point of entry. That's it. So it's actually American manufacturers that will now get a more costly good overall. Because if, let's say, you're getting your t-shirts shipped from China, right? Your garments, you're a garment producer, or the raw materials necessary to produce garments in the United States of America. Let's say you're getting that from China. Now there's a 10% tariff on all Chinese goods, which means you have to pay a 10% entry fee on everything that you purchase, which means automatically the garment manufacturing goods are now 10% more expensive. So when your garment, when you're selling your wares to a factory that is tasked with making t-shirts, at the point of purchase, that second company is basically buying a 10% more expensive product. If a bulk purchase of t-shirts was $100, now it's going to be $110, right? And when that happens, and that t-shirt manufacturer takes $110 worth of t-shirts now that previously was $100, they are going to increase the price of all of the t-shirts that they're making so that they can carry the cost over to the consumer. So now the product, like the cost of the good necessary to make this product is increased. The cost of the product is increased overall. And every step of the way, from the point of the merchandise, the point of the goods entering the United States, all the way to the point of the consumer purchasing it at a store, the cost of that t-shirt increases every step along the way, okay? And you, as a consumer, end up paying the price. The money made by the tariffs, the additional money, goes to the federal government. Now they have extra money that they can work with. And you, the consumer, are technically subsidizing that money. This is the reason why tariffs can be seen as a federal sales tax. Now, what's, I guess, somewhat interesting about this process is that there's also almost always retaliatory tariffs from the other country. And for the record, when tariffs do happen, if there is no competitive domestic manufacturing, of course, trade of that sort of commodity, or all commodities, if all commodities are tariffed, will actually decrease because people will seek out cheaper alternatives. So they will move in the direction of like Vietnam, for example, or another manufacturing hub that isn't China, that will still make the same or similar products without the additional cost associated with it. Now, of course, changing your manufacturing to a different country is an arduous and relatively costly process. So that in and of itself will also yield more expensive goods at the point of purchase. So there's also that issue in the interim. And the retaliatory tariffs, on the other hand, will also yield the same exact results. China will engage in retaliatory tariffs like they did with soybean, right? That's what they did when Donald Trump in his first administration engaged in tariffs on steel from China. And China said, okay, we're putting a tariff on soybeans. This ends up harming the American manufacturers because now the Chinese government is looking for alternatives to purchase soybeans from. So they're not going to get it from America. They're going to get it from elsewhere. And at the end of that process, it ends up harming the American manufacturers. Okay? Nah, companies are getting faster and cheaper at changing countries. The shell game continues, but yeah, it's just a Band-Aid. Yeah, but still. And I say this, I criticize all of this for the record, while also maintaining the position that tariffs on particular goods is not necessarily a bad thing. While on the one hand, I want a BYD car, I wish that American manufacturing was interested in making competitive electric vehicles. So while we do actually maintain some understandable trade isolationist policies when it comes to car manufacturing, for example, in an effort to preserve and protect our manufacturing sector and automobile manufacturing, The American manufacturers are also not using this as an opportunity to create better products overall, but instead products that hyper focus on avoiding cafe standards and building larger and larger tank-like structures in a country where the Ford F-150 is the most popular vehicle.